Well, aloha folks, Jason C. Scott here, retired Sergeant First Class United States Army. We are in the beautiful Halikoa Hotel here. And if you're watching this video right now, I want to say congratulations on taking the first step to trying to build your financial wealth, leveraging your VA home loan benefit. We could have easily done this from behind a computer, on a soundstage somewhere. However, people asked me to come all over the United States to teach these seminars, and we decided that we were going to record it live for you here at the Halikoa at the actual 2023 Career Counselor Convention. Again, thank you so much for taking that first step, and we're looking forward to helping you achieve the American dream. Well, aloha everyone. Aloha. Yeah, I know, don't you guys hate that when speakers come up, they're like, aloha, and then they make you do it like 3 times, right? Trust me, I was here for 12 years. You're like, wait a minute, Chet just said you retired. How the F? Which, again, I'm very passionate. I will try to contain myself and make sure that I don't drop any, unsanitary or whatever profane language with you guys. Although, you guys, you do know that Harvard did a study saying that people that swore were actually 98% more authentic and true than other people. Did you know that? Yeah, my mom used to say, no, you just have a lack of vocabulary. Mama was wrong, right? All right, so yes, I did 20 years, retired as a Sergeant First Class, mainly because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I had some great mentors, great Sergeant Major mentors, Sergeant Major Purdy. Any old folks in here that know who Sergeant Major Purdy was? Crazy guy that survived 3 near ambushes in Vietnam. Was the guest speaker for the 101st Air Assault School. And when they showed up, they're getting ready to graduate, he goes, 10 toughest days in the Army. Boom! Kicks the podium down, then just literally walks off and then low crawls to his truck. That was pretty much the end of his speaking career. But anyway, I had great mentors like that. So then I, in my last year in the Army, one of my good friends, when I bought my second home, and I'm going to be honest with you, VA home loans, very boring, right? However, but part of the reason why Chet said I was the #1 presenter with the USO is I do about a 30,000-foot view to give you the highlights, but then I share my story of how I did it wrong, which is very humiliating, and how I did it right, and how I teach other people to do that, right? How to build wealth. And as I show you the pictures as we go along and through it, you're gonna be like, Jesus, his home keeps getting bigger. That's not meant to brag, it's just telling you this is how it works, right? But I want you to see that it can be done. I keep running this doggone chair. And I will try to limit any curse words during the process. All right, so that being said, let's get started, make sure this works. Okay, that's basically our agenda. VA home finance man. And I hate it, don't you hate it when people read stuff to you, right? And the sad part is I gotta put my own glasses on to see my own doggone slides. This is ridiculous. But that's basically what we're going to talk about, the main stuff. And then really the most important stuff is when we get to story time, right? All right, that's me. Again, much thinner version of me. Yeah, anyway, moving on. All right, so that being said, no matter what stage of life you're in, what is the #1 expense for most families in America today? You can shout it out. Did somebody say wife? Okay, ex-wife, oh boy, okay, so story time already, here we go. No kidding, there I was. No, so guys, I get called to go all over the country to do this, right? And same thing, I asked this question, and of course, just like everybody, first of all, who said housing? Raise your hand. All right, cool. We've got some cool swag for you in the back. No, I'm just kidding. We actually do have some swag, we'll probably give it to you, just go back there and say, hey, I answered housing. But I was doing this one time, believe it or not, for the in-processing brief for our soldiers as they were coming from one duty destination to the other. And out there, one of the answers was, ex-wife! And the whole crowd literally just went, just like this, quiet, right? And I felt kind of bad for the guy. And I went up, I'm like, hey, Bubba, I think that briefing's down the hall, you're in the wrong spot, right? But yes, if you answered housing, you are absolutely correct. Some people will yell out, children! Children aren't liabilities, they're blessings, right? Trust me, I know I've got 9 grandkids under the age of 10. Why do I always get that same reaction? That's crazy. I do turn 50 here in about a month and a half, but it's not like I had any business in making the grandkids. All right, moving on. All right, now, here we go. I always like to ask this question. Of those of you that are here in the room, how much do you know about the VA home loan benefit? Some of you might be like, hey, I know a little. Hey, I can Google, watch YouTube. Or hey, I am a subject matter expert. If you are a subject matter expert, I definitely want to talk to you afterwards. You may have a different career when you get out of the Army. All right, but the reason why I asked that question is, did you know that 1 in 3 veterans are not even aware of their VA home loan benefit? You know how many veterans there are in the United States? 22 million. So 1 in 3 of that, that's a pretty crazy number, would you agree? And think about it, when I bought my first home, I didn't consider myself a veteran while I was serving. How many of your subordinates think that they're a veteran? If you ask them the question, they'll probably say no. I think a veteran is when you retire, right, Sergeant? Most of them think that way. You're a veteran once you start to serve. Did you know that? Yeah. All right. Now, moving on. Fact or fiction? Again, I like to throw a lot of questions and stuff in here. I've heard it said that the VA is the loan originator. Is that right? Anybody in here bought a home using their VA home loan benefit? Beautiful. So I'm going to ask you, did the VA actually process your loan? No. Right? They guarantee the loan, right? The lender is the one that gets you the loan, right? Someone told me I can't use my VA home loan benefit on a multi-use property. True or false? False. Absolutely. False. In fact, that's one of the best ways that you can invest in yourself. Because here's the deal, and it'll make sense when we get to the next slide here in a few minutes. When you, because like right now, you're all active duty. When you go from each station to each station, you basically only have about 3 choices for housing, correct? Can we agree those 3 choices are, 1, rent and live on post by renting from Uncle Sam. 2, live off post and rent from someone else and pay their mortgage, right? And 3, you could potentially invest in yourself and buy your own home. And of course, there's the 4th one if you want to live down in a van by the river with family, right? No, I'm just kidding. So those are typically your 3 choices. Now, if those are your only 3 choices, and you know that you move more, you're more transitory than a homeless person. That's true, right? About every 2 to 3 years, you know you're going to move, right? I'm not trying to be mean to homeless people. It's being true, right? You're going to move. If you know you're moving to every 2 to 3 years, are any one of those choices a dream home? I'll be honest with you, if living on post is a dream home, we need to have a conversation and work on expanding your dreams. And if that's the case, they only suit your needs, right? Living on post will suit your needs. Renting will suit your needs. So if you're going to move in 3 years, why would you buy a dream home and exceed suiting your needs, especially if you're trying to think about the 50, the 500, and the 1,000 meter target, which is building your long-term wealth, right? If you buy a dream home and everybody loves your home, is everyone going to help you make that payment if you can't rent it out? Exactly, right? What is the VA loan? Well, this is a very small slide on a very big screen. A lot of words up there. If you Google search it, it'll tell you, it's backed by the VA, blah, 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 blah. Very long, very boring. A lot of times you're just going to hear, what is Jason's definition? My definition of the VA loan is simply this. The VA loan is a home loan designed for veterans that have served and sacrificed for their country so they can own a piece of it. Pretty simple, right? Pretty easy. All right, moving on. Again, that was talking about the housing options. What's right for you, right? Renting from someone else, whether it be Uncle Sam off post or investing in yourself, yeah? Now, when you get started, the first thing your VA authorized or approved lender should do is pull your certificate of eligibility. So those of you that bought a home using VA home loan benefit, did anybody ever see this? Did your lender ever give it to you? Beautiful, good for you. I don't see a whole lot of people that raise their hands though, so that means a lot of you didn't. That's one of the quickest ways to tell whether or not your lender is a true VA loan expert. Now here's the thing about the lending industry. I can do all types of loans, right? It's kind of like a doctor. If you have a podiatrist, are you going to go see the podiatrist for brain surgery? Probably not. Now, I'm not saying that doing the VA loan is brain surgery. However, you'll be surprised how many people, how many deals I've rescued because they say, oh, I'm a VA loan expert because they can do loans, and then they jack it all up. What's the one commodity that you can't get back every day? Time. 5,280 seconds, right? Isn't that what it is every day? So if you go with someone who says they're a supposed expert and they jack it up, those that bought a home, how many of you had to put earnest money deposit down when you submitted your contract offer? Just about everybody, right? Now, for those of you who've never bought a home, let me explain what that is. Yes, the VA home loan is 100% financing for the purchase of the home. However, with every purchase, there's ancillary costs, whether it be upfront costs, i.e. an appraisal, i.e. earnest money deposit. What is an earnest money deposit? Well, let's say you two right here. Let's say I'm selling a home. You're both pre-approved. You submit your pre-approval letter to me, right? Both fine candidates. The difference is he decides that he wants to put $500 earnest money with his offer. Which one am I going to take more serious if I'm the seller? The one with earnest money. They got a little bit more skin in the game, right? So you got to be prepared for that. Now, granted, the VA does not require you to do earnest money And a lot of markets, especially down in the South, like Georgia, I think my earnest money might have been $100 when I bought my first home. They may not require it. But like here in Hawaii, or on Oahu, it's not uncommon to see $1,000 or $1,500 as part of your earnest money deposit. Make sense? Okay. All right. But it all starts with certificate of eligibility, making sure I've got access to the portal. I actually have VA credentials. I hop on within 2 minutes. I have your social security number, your date of birth, and I pull up this sheet. And this sheet will tell me everything about you in regards to your VA home loan benefit, whether you've used it before, whether you're funding fee exempt, all that stuff, right? Most lenders that don't do VA loans, they'll ask you for this, or they'll ask you to give them your DD-214. Anybody heard that before? Hey, can you guys give us a copy of your DD-214? Anybody bought a home? They ever do that to you? Yeah, crazy. All right, who qualifies? Pretty simple, right? Everybody in this room qualifies. Everyone that's serving, excuse me, do I have any folks in here that are non-service personnel that are part of this audience? Okay, beautiful. So you all qualify. National Guard, Reserve. My favorite one, so this bottom one says surviving spouses, has an asterisk next to it. Why do you think that's my favorite one? Well, what I didn't tell you is I did 8 combat tours, 4 to Iraq, 4 to Afghanistan, and I've been documented being blown up 47 times. I'm actually lucky to be alive. Part of the reason why I'm fat, because I can't really run, because my body hurts all the time, right? However, it's nice to know that while I deployed, if I would have met my maker, I could have actually passed on my certificate of eligibility, my VA benefit, to my wife, as long as she remained unmarried to the age of 57. Yeah, that's called a dramatic pause, and every time I do it, I get all these crazy looks. People are like, did he just say 57? Yep, I did too when I first started in this industry. I actually reached out to the VA and I said, hey, my name's Sergeant First Class Scott, retired. I'm getting in the lending industry. I'm going through the guidelines, and I see this. What does that mean and why? And I kid you not, true to fashion, no BS, I get a reply back from the VA. Dear Mr. Scott, congratulations on your retirement. Congratulations on your career choice. We don't know why age 57. It's been on the book so long, we continue to enforce it. I'm not lying. I used to actually have that as part of my brief, that email, until they asked me to no longer put it up there. But they didn't say I couldn't talk about it. So, just like everybody, I say there's their reason and here's my reason. I think the VA says age 57 is because they feel that by the time you reach age 57, you're no longer marketable, so therefore they feel sorry for you. I'm just kidding. That's cold. That would never happen. All right, moving on. Fact versus fiction. I heard I'm eligible for the VA home loan as a military spouse. Fact or fiction? Well, I just gave you kind of the answer. Some do, some don't. It depends. Surviving spouse under certain circumstances, absolutely. But just because you're a spouse, no can. Unless you're a spouse that has served, right? Is it true that all surviving spouses are eligible? Again, just kind of gave you that up front, right? It depends, right? Depends on the circumstances. And once I receive my certificate of eligibility, that means I'm approved, right? Just means you're eligible, right? All right, moving on. Okay, I love this slide, but I'm going to ask my folks that bought a home loan before, and I want you to shout it out. Those of you that bought a home using your VA loan, why did you choose the VA loan? No down payment is the biggest one I heard, right? And imagine that. It's like the top bullet, right? But again, if you remember, as I said earlier, yes, it is 100% financing. Yes, it is true. You can finance the whole thing, but there are ancillary costs. Now, depending on the lender that you use, you may have to put temporary money down and they can structure your loan and you can get it back. But when they structure your loan, you get it back and they roll in the closing costs. Anybody heard that term before? You know what that is, right? Okay, for those that don't, let's say the average closing costs are 1.5% on a loan. So if you're buying a $500,000 home, that's $6,500, right? But you don't have $6,500. And because you got great credit, let's say you would normally get a rate of, let's say 3%. Obviously 3% is not even available right now, folks. I'm just using that because it's easy to remember. But because you don't have money to pay your closing costs, they'll be like, don't worry about it, buddy. We're just going to give you a 3.75 and give you enough lender credit to cover your closing costs. Sounds like a deal, right? Of course it does, because they're going to pay your closing costs. But let me ask you this. Does anybody do anything for nothing? And over 30 years, what do you think you're going to pay back? You going to pay more than $6,500? Absolutely, right? So believe it or not, the only closing cost that can be rolled into the loan is the VA funding fee, which up until just about a week ago, the funding fee for first-time use, and you'll see this on another slide, was 2.3%, and continuous use was 3.6%. But they just reverted back to prior to the Navy Blue Water Act, it's back to 2.15, but that'll make more sense here in a little bit. So, but yes, no down payment, flexible credit score requirements. Anybody know what's considered an excellent credit score? It's a trick answer, or it's a trick question. It's all in the eyes of the beholder, right? With the VA loan, typically if you're a 680 or better, that's considered excellent for VA loan standards. But did you know that per the guidelines, the VA guidelines, there is no FICO score required to buy a home? However, you are not going to find a lender on the planet that's going to give you a loan without some kind of FICO score. Does that make sense? Kind of like the 7-8. Do I have any infantry folks in here? Any? None? Prior infantry. Sorry, I know you're all career counselors now. There we go, thank you. They're like, 7-8, oh, was that basic training? I don't even remember that stuff. Well, 7-8 was the infantryman's Bible, right? It's the basic deal. What's the layer on top of the infantryman's Bible if you go to Ranger School? Anybody went to Ranger School? Nope? Okay. Ranger Handbook, right? It's adding another layer. You can always add to, but you can never take away. So even though the VA says you don't have to have a credit score, doesn't mean that lenders can say, well, we have a minimum FICO score, right? Now, with us, believe it or not, our bottom line is 500. I'm not a big fan of that, and here's why. If someone has a 500 FICO score, have they demonstrated responsibility in financial fiscal fitness? Probably not, right? So typically when I have someone with a low FICO like that, we have credit repair experts, and I'm talking about true credit repair experts, holistic health credit repair experts, not just people that are going to mail 20 letters a day to challenge something that, you know, that you actually did buy, but you're trying to say you didn't. These are folks that are actually going to educate you, right? But I always talk to them. It's like, look, how quickly do you have to get a home? Well, I've got some time. Well, if you've got some time, let's work on your FICO score, right? Let's get some stuff under control, because the higher the FICO score, what does that do to your interest rate? It brings it down, right? Higher FICO score, lower rate. Lower FICO score, higher rate, right? All right, moving on. VA funding fees, we were talking about this earlier, right? So, up until literally just last week, funding fee was 2.3. Does anybody know why it was raised? Anybody track that stuff? Anybody hear of something called the Navy Blue Water Act? May have heard of it. So June of 2019, former President Trump signed into effect the Navy Blue Water Act. What that was for was a way to help take care of our Vietnam veterans that served in the waters around Vietnam but were exposed to Agent Orange. However, there was a lot of them. So in order to pay for their, whether it be compensation or medical benefits, they're like, we got to get the money from somewhere. We're going to raise the VA funding fee. So they raised it to 2.3 for first-time use and 3.6 for second use. What does that mean? Well, for every $100,000 that you buy, your loan amount increased $2,300. Does that make sense? Well, last week they finally rescinded it back down to 2.15 and to 3.3. And then those of you that bought a VA home loan during the crazy, what we call the Barry Bonds asterisk steroid mortgage years, 19 to 21, anybody here got a 2% rate on something? Oh yeah, I love you guys. You guys are in great shape. I hope you hold on to that forever, right? The problem with that is that never should have happened, right? It never should have happened. Like, I've been working with guys that have been doing this like 40 years. They're like, I didn't even know we could get 2% on a rate sheet. Holy cow, but yeah. So, but those of you that when you first bought, you were probably anywhere between 3.5%, 4%, whatever, and then you get all these postcards. Once you buy a house, how many here buy a house and gets all kinds of lovely mail? Oh yeah, let's tap into that equity. Your equity reserves are X and you can get Y. Oh Jesus. We're going to streamline refinance you, which is a great product if done the right way, and as long as you're not using a lender that's going to charge you $30,000 to do it and just increase your balance and take away from your equity. But that funding fee is actually 0.5%. Now, those of you that have deployed and received a Purple Heart and are still serving, you're funding fee exempt. You never have to pay the funding fee. And when you retire, before you retire, I'm hoping you're going to knock out your CMPs with the VA and get that process started. And if you get any type of VA disability rating, you'll be funding fee exempt as well. That'll save you that extra money. Boom. All right. This is a standard. We did this obviously about a year ago because those rates are not even close. But typically between a conventional loan and a VA loan, you're going to see anywhere from 0.75 of a point to a point difference in rate. That's huge, right? So not only are rates going to be crazy good for you. Basically, this was based off of a 680 FICO with a purchase price of 765.6, right? On the conventional side, they got to put at least 10% down. Well, with 10%, they also have mortgage insurance. On the VA side, 100% financing. Now, granted, their principal and interest payment, the VA one is higher, but the overall payment, it's less because you don't have to pay mortgage insurance, and you have a lower rate. By far, if you're buying a primary residence because of your service, the VA loan is going to be the best product for you. Now, if you're buying investment properties or second homes, you can't use the VA for that, right? That's where your conventional products come in. All right, now we know who's eligible, what it looks like. Let's talk about budget. 90% of the folks I meet when I talk to them, the first question I ask them, I ask 100% of them this question, but 90% answer me differently. Have you thought about a budget when you're buying your home? And what do you think they say? They're like, yeah, well, I wish they would say that. Whoever said that over here, I love that, because you're actually on the right track. No, they say, yes, I have, Jay. I'm looking at $700,000 homes on Zillow. That's not a budget, that's a price point. And then I'll ask them, what do you think that payment is? Well, I think my buddy got one that's like $1,200 a month. No, they don't make 120-year mortgages. So I teach them the real easy, what I call field artillery mortgage math, the rule of 500. Basically, for every $500 a month that you spend in rent or mortgage payment, that's about equal to $100K in purchase power. Now, granted, that's not precise. That's just to get you in the ballpark. So if you're looking at a $700,000 home, you know that you're at least $3,500 a month before taxes, insurance, HOAs, all that fun stuff. Make sense? That's the quick way to do mortgage math. And again, like Chet alluded to earlier, I ate crayons, so if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? All right, types of income. Got to income and credit qualify. So income qualify. Well, everybody in here is W-2, right? I don't think anybody here is 1099 or getting commissions. I wish, right? Yeah. No. W-2, you work for the man, right? Self-employed works. When you guys retire, do what I do. That's 1099, right? Run your own business. Retirement pay. Retirement pay and disability pay, that's the best income ever. You want to know why? You can't get fired from it. Keeps on going. Now, what does not count as income? Jay, I'm getting out. I'm going to use my post 9/11 GI Bill. I'm going to wherever, Tuscaloosa, and they're going to give me $3,000 a month for housing. Hey, that's awesome, but I can't count it as income. Do you know why? Well, one, it's only temporary, right? It's 36 months, and out of that being temporary, what do you have to do to make sure you get that full stipend each month? You got to be full-time in school. Does anybody know colleges that go full-time year-round? I mean, you can do summer school, but the odds of getting full-time in summer school are probably not going to happen, right? Hence, can't work. Well, Jay, what about the vocational VA rehab? Again, it's temporary. It's not sustainable or likely to continue, right? So it's got to be sustainable and likely to continue. Good. All right, story time. So, property one, this is how I did it wrong. I came back for my 7th combat tour, 4th time to Iraq, 7th overall. This is 2009. And they decided I was going to take a knee and be an instructor at Ranger School. Yeah, that's not taking a knee. That's just, I pissed somebody off anyway. My brother, who works for the NSA, goes, Jay, you going to buy a house this year? No, dude, I just paid 6 months worth of rent. I just came back with a bunch of money. I don't have to worry about nothing. He's like, but bro, the president's going to give you $9K back to buy a house. What did Staff Sergeant Scott do? I bought a freaking house to get $9K back. Didn't ask any questions. I was like, damn, that sounds like a smoking deal. Spent $169K, bought a house, got $9K back. Man, this is awesome. And I bought it in Smith Station, Alabama, which is right across the Chattahoochee River from Fort Benning, Georgia. Anybody familiar with that area? Oh, yeah. Different. It was different pre-COVID. Now, shoot, everybody's just jumping out of the water to get there. It's crazy. What did I do with that house? Well, for 9 months and 14 days, I was begging Branch, get me the hell out of here. I don't want to live here anymore. Nope, can't do it. Then finally, 9 months, 15 days, they're like, all right, cool. We'll send you to Hawaii, but you got to go back to Afghanistan. You're going to take an infantry platoon. I was like, sold, send me. So we had to rent it out. We rented it for 10 years. So I bought it for $169. What do you guys think I sold it for in 2019? Oh man, that would have been amazing, but no. I sold it for $165. It's funny when I say this every night. Everyone's like, oh my God, you lost $4,500, but did I? Do you see the fine print up there? I had it rented for 10 years at $400 a month, cash flow positive. Quick math, that's $48,000 in 10 years. And then I met this cool guy named Dave Ramsey. You guys ever heard of him? Yep. Half of that went to an emergency fund, the other half went towards the reserves. I could have sold that thing for $120K and still made money. But what I did wrong is I didn't ask any questions. I didn't know that I was in a buyer's market. I didn't know that I was going to have to hold on to this bad boy for a long time. I didn't know I was going to be a landlord that whole time, right? That's how I did it wrong. We don't do that anymore. Second home. So we moved on, came to Hawaii. I didn't buy a home when we first got here because, well, being here only 3 months, I was going to go to Afghanistan. My wife's like, babe, I'd kind of like to get to know the area before we buy a house. Cool. So we moved on post. I deployed, came back and bought a house. Now keep in mind, I still have my VA loan on the home in Alabama. Then I bought this home using my VA loan. Had 2 VA loans at the same time. Who here didn't know that you could do that? Yeah, now you learned something. Yeah, that's true. I went from a low county limit area to a high county loan limit area and used what's called type 2 or tier 2 entitlement and was able to buy a second VA loan. Now, that house, so during the pandemic, I had opened up another branch in Colorado Springs, so I was having to fly back and forth, right? You guys realize, come this March, we'll be 1 year open for you guys. You know that, right? Like, that's crazy. Like, the rest of the country's kind of been open for a while. You guys are just getting ready to have your 1 year anniversary. Well, anyway, when we moved to Colorado, I was going back and forth. I just fell in love with it over there. And I said, babe, I think it's time. The market's starting to, we're starting to see rates start to jump up a little bit. We've owned this home for 10 years. Let's sell it. So we sold it, literally, April of last year. Bought it for $562, sold it for $1,050,000. Cash. I never thought I'd see that. I did not deal in lending, but yeah, somebody actually offered cash. Somebody moved from California and said, hey, it's too expensive here. We want to move to Hawaii. I'm like, where in California do you live? San Francisco. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. $1 million there gets you a water closet. Anyway. Now, what was cool about this house, the whole time that we owned it, we had kids go to school, go to college, bought a couple other properties, and like I said, I opened up another branch in Colorado. Now, I bought this home, but not using my VA home loan benefit. However, because I used my VA home loan benefit, and I knew that I had a ton of equity in my home, I was able to leverage and tap into that equity to put a down payment on the home and do a conventional loan for a second home in Colorado, right? Owned it for 14 months. Bought it in December of 20, and last year we sold it as well. And look how I did, right? But it's because I'm obviously in the industry and I paid attention to the conditions and I asked questions. And it all started by leveraging my VA home loan benefit. And now, when I sold the Hawaii home and sold the Colorado home, now I got the dream home. I'm not just buying something that suits my needs. We've got 6,000 square feet of ranch on 5.5 acres, and my nearest neighbor is 200 yards away, right? And you know what's really crazy? Is my mortgage payment isn't any more than it was for the one that I bought in Hawaii because I did it smart. The money I made, I put towards it. Does that make sense? And here's what's even crazier. I've got enough money to last for 3 years. So if my business goes off the rails, I get hit by a bus, my wife's still got at least 3 years of mortgage payments. So ask yourself this, how do I get to that position, right? That's why I talk about the 50, the 500, and 1,000 meters. It's not bragging, it's just literally about setting yourself up the right way. And it can be done anywhere you live. Now, the difference maker, location, 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 right? Smith Station, Alabama, great location, but it is a cash flow location, right? A lot of people want to buy homes, but not a whole lot of people could buy homes. But they need to rent. They need some form of housing. Boom. Hawaii, appreciation state. Ride that long wave, man. Don't try to swim, North Shore during the Big Eddy first time learning how to surf, right? You gotta learn, build up to it. And then Colorado, it's another desirable area. So, helpful nuggets. Look at the rental market when you're buying a home. Ask your realtor, hey, if I were to rent this same house right now, what would it cost me per month? And see how close it is to your mortgage net. And then ask them, what does the trend look like? Do rents go up? Do they go down? right? Does that make sense? Arm yourself with information so you can make an educated decision, not a emotional one. Determine the population density. You guys will know that no matter where you go. You can look at it and say, oh, how easy is it going to be to buy and sell a home here? Now, calculate the annual median sales price. That's where your realtor should be able to show you the last 30 years of what home prices have done and how long it takes for them to appreciate. Does that make sense? Do you know in Hawaii, typically every 10 years, home prices double? That's insane, right? And then decide how long you got to keep it before selling. I'll be honest with you. I probably should have asked the question, hey, if we buy this house today in Smith Station, Alabama, how long do I got to hold on to it before I sell it? If they've been like, Mr. Scott, you got to hold on to it for 10 years. I'm not saying that we wouldn't have bought the house because I was still driven on the fact that I was going to get $9K for buying a house, but at least I would have taken a pause of like, dang, do I want to be a landlord knowing that I'm going to PCS at least probably 3 more times, right? And then ask yourself this question. If I can't do it now, what can I do to get there? How can I prepare myself? Cool? So that completes my presentation. It is now story time questions if you have any. If not, thank you so much. I know that carb coma has got to be kicking in by now. If you need to get in touch with me, there's my QR code. You can pop up your phones. It'll take you to my site anytime. Other than that, thank you so much. I think it's a hooey ho and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm the great white howley, so, you know, I don't know what I say. But thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.